Today, Sam chats with Robyn Adair, who works in a school focusing on community engagement with her therapy dog Elle, who has a hearing impairment. Robyn is also a part-time dog trainer who specialises in dogs with disabilities, and during this episode, she goes into detail about what it's like working in a school environment with Elle and the special considerations and adjustments she makes to facilitate Elle's interactions with students and staff. What a treat! Enjoy the episode.
All right. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I've got Robyn here with me today. She's going to share a bit of her special journey that she's had over the last... When did you finish your training, Robyn? Wasn't that long ago?
Last November.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Time flies.
Doesn't it?
Goodness. So I'm going to let Robyn introduce herself and her puppy dog to you so we can hear a little bit about who you are and who your puppy dog is and what makes your team special.
Okay. Well, my name is Robyn and I work in education. I've worked in education for just on 30 years. My dog, Elle, is a special dog in that she is hearing impaired and I just use sign language with her all of the time. In our school, we have over 1,000 children. So it's been quite a journey to introduce her to that many children and the pats and everything we do. My role in the school is community engagement. So having a therapy dog is absolutely perfect for our situation and to get the community engagement happening.
So cool. So we're going to cover like a few things, including the training. So how you adjusted things, because you came to us, Robyn, with already a lot of knowledge, didn't you? So what's your experience with dogs that have...
So I'm actually a dog trainer as well, and I have been since 2001, but my specialty area is dogs with disabilities. I've had 6 of my own deaf border collies, and I've also had a blind Labrador. But that's sort of my area. So I volunteer for organisations that work with deaf dogs or dogs with disabilities. Well, that's my part-time thing.
Just your side hustle.
Yeah.
Same.
Absolutely.
So cool. So do you have a dog training business?
No. So I worked for an organisation down here, a private dog training school. And then now I link in like in my agility world because my dogs all do agility. I'm vice president of our local agility club down here.
So I just wondered if people wanted to contact you and ask questions, training questions, do you do private consults?
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Most of the stuff with deaf dogs I do as a volunteer thing. So they can absolutely contact me. I have a lot of people who come to me through Deaf Dog Rescue Australia.
So cool. Very well. So some people might already know of you. They might be listening to this and they might already be like, oh, that's Robyn.
They might. They might.
Awesome. They probably will. Cool. Okay. So one of the things that we use a lot in our training is our tone of voice. So when you came along, and your dog's not the first deaf dog that we've trained. We've trained other deaf dogs as well. But the reason I wanted to talk to you is because you're so incredibly knowledgeable in the space. So we want to share some of that with people. So when we use our tone of voice, we use a good boy or good boy as our continuation markers. So either like continue what you're doing because it's good, or discontinue what you're doing because it's starting to look like not a good choice. So how did you adjust that?
There were a couple of ways, a couple of hand signals that I introduced so that she knew she wasn't exactly doing the right thing. But it's actual facial expression. So if I'm smiling, she knows everything's hunky-dory. And if I'm sort of like not smiling, things just aren't good. Nobody else notices it. But
right?
The dog goes, okay, I understand. Yeah. So it's just in my face and what I'm doing.
Getting a bit of a look.
Yeah, a bit of a and she knows it really well.
Do you think that so my dogs respond to that too, but because they're looking at me. So, but I can use my voice to get their attention if they're not looking at me. So like, and also, do you think border collies are easier to train, like a hearing impaired border collie, because my border collie is looking at me all the time? Is that do you think that's a border collie thing?
It's not. So even the other breeds that I've taught Great Danes, Bull Arabs, all sorts of breeds that are deaf. If you teach them to actually look at you the whole time, and she is actually trained to be looking at me. I notice now that she's really comfortable in this environment, she just runs off and then she keeps checking back. So there are some people in some offices that have tennis balls, and they lure her into their office, and she'll play ball, but she keeps coming back to the doorway and going,
checking
"Are you
in
there still?" Yeah. So I still get that happening.
So one of the things that is a challenge for me, a barrier for me, is that when we're working with a therapy dog, we want them to be really engaged with the student, the participant, whoever that is. And so one of my concerns with deaf dogs is always that, but I want them to be able to just engage with the person who's they're there for, but also we need to be able to also be monitoring that and having that checking in thing happening so that we can give guidance on, like continue or just be careful there, Missy, like that kind of thing. So how do you find the balance with that?
She's actually the dog. It's not me, but the dog is really good at it. So there have been some days where staff have come up to the staff room and then just dropped on the floor and laid down with her on the floor, and she just lays with them. Like, she keeps looking at me just slyly, but she's with them, licks their face, that sort of thing, and engages really well with them. And they don't even know that she's keeps checking in, Mum, is that okay? Yeah. And they don't notice. The same with the kids. The kids will get in, they'll even cuddle her and all, and she just keeps looking up at me to say, is this all right? Am I doing the right thing? And every now and then I just have to give her a thumbs up that you're doing the right thing, and then she settles back to it.
So cool.
It was really hard in the beginning though, because she wasn't used to children, and I set things up really badly. It was like I did the wrong thing totally. And so I just walked into the school, because I know you'd said through the training, this is it. Like, you have to be careful. You have to watch the dog, And I thought, nah, this is easy. Walk in, we'll be fine. Until hundreds of children crowded us, and it was like, back off. And the dog got scared. And our first day, we went home. The dog was exhausted. I was exhausted. And I stopped and went, I have to rethink this. I've just messed this up totally. And the next day she didn't want to get in the car and come to work. And I went,
gosh.
Oh. And I really, really messed that first day up. So then I stopped and went, okay, what have I got to do here? So we didn't come out at lunchtimes to begin with. And I went around, like we have 38 classes. So we spent the first 3 weeks just going from room to room, introducing her and setting really firm boundaries for the children. Even now I have to be really careful going out at lunchtimes and remind the kids that they have to make lines beside her and come in carefully, not to block her vision. And they're really good. They don't pat her face at all, because her eyes are her only thing that she's got. So if they block that could scare her. She's not a dog that takes fright very quickly. And I haven't had that happen, but even things like don't approach her if you've got a pencil in your hand. Put the pencils down, because if you get her in the eye,
oh my gosh,
she's lost her sight as well.
She's going to be deaf really and careful. Blind.
Yes. And I just don't want that.
we just try and avoid that, please, students. So you're working with little kids?
Yes. Yeah. And in any one day we could have 500 children patter.
Oh my gosh. So
it's pretty full on.
It's a big job, isn't it?
Yeah. And
I feel like people don't believe me. And I just want to take this chance to say, I told you so.
Well, I did think it was going to be so easy. It was just like, I'm just going to walk in and here I am. But
You
the
know,
thing
if
that
I had
actually,
$1 for every time I heard that.
do you know the thing that's really frustrating though is on the days she's with me, all I hear is Ellie, 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 and on the days she's not here with me, crickets.
Yeah,
Not
I
even
know,
a hello.
right? I know, right? I've been living this life for over 10 years now.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
She
gosh.
is the only important one here.
Yeah. That won't change. It doesn't wear off, unfortunately.
No. And
Or
it's funny though,
fortunately.
because you can walk by classrooms and all you're hearing is Ellie, Ellie. And I keep saying to kids, you don't have to call her. She can't hear you.
She can't hear. Yeah. Yep. Few things I want to pick up on that last little bit because that's very rich. All those things. So first thing, I was marking someone's videos this morning, and they did their social walk video through their school. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know if we can get permission to have it and show it to people in the course, but I've asked because, oh my gosh, it's just a perfect, like they're kids and they're high school kids and they do run up to the dog and they will have been told before and all these things, but we're dealing with little brains that they're not thinking ahead and they don't have that impulse control. And, you know, you can't just face palm them all off and things like that. And it's like, this dog's been at the school for like a year, if not more. And the kids are still like running up to it and creating stuff. And I think, it's just such a great way to show people like, this is what I'm talking about. And it would be even worse at a primary school because the kids are louder, they're faster.
Yeah, they are.
Just like lots of moving little bodies and they're everything about them. Like even the way they pat and things like that. They've got less motor skills development and stuff like that. Like, and they probably do wild stuff to their dogs at home. Like even all my clients that I see, like they do wild stuff to their dogs at home. So they see a dog and they're like, I can just do whatever I want to this dog. Like, this is great. Dogs are great.
It's really good because she has a school t-shirt.
Yep.
And so they know they're not to touch above the t-shirt. So they have to touch below the t-shirt. So it's never on the face. I've had a couple of kids that do keep hugging her. Yeah. But she just sort of stands there real stiff, like, yeah, okay.
This is one of those kids that needs a hug. Okay.
Yeah. We'll just put up with it.
Like, that's a good example because kids hug my dogs sometimes too. We don't encourage it, but we teach the dogs to cope with it so that, you know, if a little person needs to hug them for whatever reason, then they can do that. And it's not, you know, career ending for the dog. Yeah. But I talk to my dogs during that. Like I'll reassure them. So, you know, that's where that good boy comes into play. Is that where you would like smile at her?
I would smile or thumb up. Yeah. So the thumb up is a big one for her. She actually wiggles her tail like, oh, okay, I'm doing the right thing. She knows. I love that.
Yes.
And it's funny. She goes stiff for the children, but when the adults come up, like the teachers come up and hug her all the time, and she's like, oh yeah, you know. So
right
it's quite
into
funny. Yeah, it's quite funny how different she is. I don't know whether it's because the little ones are so much littler that she just stands really still.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But with the adults, she'll actually snuggle in. It's quite different.
Yeah. Because so Oliver, if I say cuddle, he'll jump up and give me a cuddle because he loves jumping up. So we just put a cue on it so you don't get jumped on all the time. But my kids try and get him to do it and he won't jump on them. So weird. But like an adult or teenager, he will. Yeah. It's so weird. And he's such a gentle jumper.
They just know it's a different situation. Yeah.
So those kids have to roll. If you roll around on the floor and giggle, then he'll jump on you and he lays on them and licks their whole face and they just squeal. And then that just makes him like so amped and he just keeps doing it. And so I actually have to teach the kids a hand signal for when they're ready for him to stop doing that because I can't tell if they're screaming because they're excited or they're screaming because they've had enough.
I can understand, yeah.
Because if I call the dog off and he gets up and then they're like, oh, I want him to keep doing it. And I'm like, okay, well, you're squealing. Like, no. So I had to teach a hand signal.
I haven't had any squealers yet. I did. I had, actually, this is something to be aware of. So in the classrooms, I always say, Is there anyone here that is a little bit scared of dogs or allergic to dogs as we go through? And you just put your hand up and we'll, avoid them. But I had an adult who was terrified to the point where she screamed and ran out of the room.
Yeah.
And because it was a person that's not normally in the school, I didn't expect it. It was just, out of the blue. So they're sorts of things that you have to be careful of when you first start.
They really
and
are.
And the dog didn't know. And because, it was happening sort of behind her, she had no idea what was going on. Yeah.
It's one of those things that, so I really find as well, so when you put your signs up, there's a therapy dog here, blah, 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 at a school, there's like a million entry points. A million entry points. And lots of people at schools, I don't know what your schedule's like, but lots of people at schools don't have, so the dog's here Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So they can't just leave their sign up with the days on it because they change the days based on their calendar. So if they've got something on or not on or whatever, then they'll change the days that the dog comes in and doesn't come in. It's just one of those things that because people aren't expecting, I think for people with fears and phobias, it's particularly stressful when you're not expecting a dog to be there. You're expecting that this is a dog-free zone, and then all of a sudden there's a dog there. Whereas if you go for a walk down the beach, you sort of know you might see a dog, and you got to see it in the distance and be able to prepare yourself. But I think that shock value of catch them off guard.
It was quite freaky.
Poor lady. So if we it's good that Elle couldn't hear that though.
Yeah.
Might have given her a fright.
She was just running through the offices. Where's the tennis ball?
So that would be another situation actually. So that's where I would have our, the kind of thing where our recall is really important. Because we need to stay. And I find as well with fearful people, the sooner they can see that the dog is under control or see how much control you've got over the dog, it helps them to settle down a lot faster. That lady probably wouldn't, she was just triggered and she was out of there. So it probably wouldn't have mattered. Yeah. But in other settings, so if I recall the dogs and they come back to me in that moment, it seems to develop this level of okay, it's going to be okay. That dog's listening. It's that dog's under control, for lack of better terms. In that setting, if she's not looking at you, I
can clap. So she
okay.
can feel the clap. She's been trained to feel the vibration of the clap. And that's exactly what I did in that case, was clap to get her back, pick up the lead and move off.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
So she's really, really perceptive with that. Which is good. She's not right now, as you can see her right now. She is fast asleep.
Bless her little heart. She's such a beautiful dog too.
She's got the best nature. I'm really glad I got her. So she was a rescue.
When we watched your training videos, it was just so cool to watch. That's when I was like, we just have to get Robyn in for a podcast we wanted to give you a chance to settle into your school. And get things going. But then, when I was watching them, I was like, this is just so cool. So cool to see. She's
pretty amazing. I think
she's incredible.
Because I've got another 2 girls at home, and I think they'll be fairly similar when they mature a little bit more.
Yeah. Wow.
But I think even starting up this sort of thing, toileting, you don't even think about that. So she actually won't go. So I've got to walk her. I've got to go off campus, walk her down the street where there are other dogs, and then she'll go. But otherwise she won't go here at school.
That's another thing that I use a voice command for. That's another thing.
So I have a hand release for that, but she will not do it here at school.
Because the voice, so how we hear running water, and that might trigger you to want to do a wee. It's because when you do, we go to the toilet into toilets that got water in them. So that's the sound that we hear. It's like a classical conditioning thing. So that's how I train the dogs. So when they're puppies, I think this is how everyone does it. When they're puppies and they do a wee, you say wee wees while they're weeing. So then if I go out and want, especially Nala's really good. Oliver's actually really good too. Sunny's actually really good. Actually, they're actually all really solid with it. if I go wee wees, it triggers them, and that must be the classical conditioning thing. But I don't know if a hand signal would have the same.
Probably not, but
Yeah.
I've got to the point now where I take her to an area that I know other dogs have been.
Yeah.
So for her,
she wants to
she
mark.
will mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nala's a marker.
Yeah.
So is Oliver, actually. Nala marks and then does that like burnout thing with her feet.
Oh, no. No, she doesn't do that.
Grass everywhere. Oh. She does it down at like near the office. We walk them down BG's way down there so they can go to the toilet. And she just like she's so annoying because she'll do like a tiny wee so that she can, so she holds some in the tank like a boy dog. She holds some. And I'm like, that's not a proper wee. You need to do a proper, we're not marking things. We're doing a wee. Do a wee, please. But she does her burnouts and she's funny like that.
Ellie doesn't do that. So that's good.
Funny little dog. Actually, so Nala had a surface preference for concrete when I got her as a puppy, and I thought it was going to be our undoing. It was so bad. It took forever. I
had a male like that. He'd been bred, the breeder that he had him on cement kennel. Yeah. And he would just always go on cement.
Our breeder, just purely by accident, had the puppies like on their patio. So they'd like feed them out in the patio. And there was grass there, but it was too far away. Like the puppies wouldn't get to the grass to wee. Yep. And so but it was a great little area that they had because they had all this stuff they could climb in the gardens and like really enriching, stimulating area. But just that it was too far away from grass for them to really get into that habit of going onto the grass and getting good grass.
And it takes so long to correct it.
Robyn, I was stressing. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get this undone. Like she would walk off the grass onto the concrete to wee. And I'd be like, oh my God.
My male would do the same thing. Drive me crazy.
It was months and months. Yeah. And I would like do as much as I could to prevent it and get her in that habit. And it's like, then she would like wee on grass as well, but she would prefer, we'd be walking down the street and she'd just squat on the concrete. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's so embarrassing. I used to take water bottles with me everywhere so I could like wash it away.
Yeah, wash it.
Far out. If somehow it like makes it less embarrassing if you can wash it away. Whereas if she just does a wee on the concrete walking down the street and then you just keep walking, it's like this like horrible feeling. It's like if she did a poo and you didn't pick it up. Like it's like, you know, it's like that social thing of like, oh my gosh. I've had a water bottle. It made it easier, but it was so stressful. So why do you think she won't wee at the school?
I don't know. It's really strange. Maybe there's not enough scent of other dogs here. Yeah. We do have our reading dogs here. She's actually terrified of one of them.
Oh.
We've got beautiful big greyhound that comes in. And she saw it so on her first day, she was looking out the door and saw it coming up the pathway. And she was like, not doing that.
No. Bless her. Maybe she is a bit like Nala and she's just hanging on to it so she knows you're going to take her down the street. And so she wants to keep all her wee so she can mark everything.
Mark it. She could be. I don't know. She has this really strange thing. So she can smell where the snakes have been.
Oh,
and
really?
we had a snake outside my office that would come every now and then. But she now does this, she sniffs and then she like leaps in the air in a particular area. And I know there are snakes down there. So I sort of stay away from that area.
You know what? Oliver has a reptile specific bark. If he finds a reptile, he's got this specific bark that he does. And I know to go and check. And it'll be like a lizard. Like one time he found a blue tongue. One time he found a snake. It's just it's his tail. It's weird.
Yeah. So hers is just jump. And as soon as I see it, it's like I'm going the other way.
Yeah. Which it's great because then like, oh, okay, like, come away from that, please. Leave absolutely. That lizard alone. Please don't touch that snake.
Yeah. Okay, right away.
Cool. So the thumbs up that we talked about I remember when you were doing the course and we talked about putting that continuation cue in because, or you say your thumbs up or your smile at her, because there's situations where I want the dog, because the dog will check in and I want to be able to let them know that's correct. Like keep doing that. Like, so sometimes if our dogs check in with us and we make eye contact with them and things like that, they come to you. Like they just want to be like, oh, hey mom, like, hi. Yeah. And I want them to stay in position, like stay doing what they're doing, because they're, facilitating, a human animal bond moment or, something they're with someone that wants them with them. So have you found that with her? Are you able to, is it handy or is it sort of something she's already done naturally and you just paired it up? How's she go?
She'll stay with the person that she's with unless I actually call her back. Okay. So if I do a motion for her to come to me, then she'll come. So like trying to get from my office up to the school office of a day takes forever. And people laugh actually as I'm going up. They're going, how long is it going to take to get up there? And it's like, I just want to go up for morning tea. So like you leave. So I'm at one end of the school and the office is way up the other end. And I'll leave like 20, 30 minutes before break time just to get up through the kids. It's just amazing.
Gosh.
But it's great. And then
that's why
what I do is, so the way that we've been used at the moment, and the whole thing is evolving here. We've got a really good principal who really believes in therapy dogs, which is great. And he's sort of letting me take the lead of, this is how it's going to go. So at the moment, we're looking at children who were refusing to come to school or come in the school gate.
Yep.
And I get a phone call. We've got one out the front. And so I'll go out, take the lead, and and it's the only time I let other people control my dog. But I'll say to the child, here's the lead, let's go for a walk. And
that's what I do too.
And they'll turn and they'll come straight back into school. We'll do a lap of the school and then we go into their classroom. And then we do a tricks demo in the classroom with the dog. And so by that time,
it transitioned in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just works beautifully.
Works every time, I reckon.
Yep.
Every time. I always tell people, like, so when you hand a child a dog lead, it's almost like you've tied them to it.
Yeah.
And they're choosing to hold it, but they will not let it go.
They don't.
They will not let it go. And so all I've got to do is hand them the lead and then call the dog and start walking. Yep. And the dog will come with me and then the kid's just coming. Like, it's just like.
And they don't realise that. And the look on the parent's face often is like, oh.
Yeah.
And they don't even get a goodbye or nothing. They're just like, we're gone. Which is great. I've got one mum and she's taken photos of Elle because she puts them up in her child's bedroom. And so that he knows when he's coming to school on that particular day, that's who he's coming to see.
Yeah.
And so it's really good.
Yeah, so we call those transitional items. So to get that kid out of bed and ready for school, we need that transitional object in there of the photo to say, it's a visual support of, okay, so, but Ellie's there. Remember how Ellie's there? And you could even, if anyone's listening, you could translate that too. So if we had issues with, okay, but the kid's only coming to school on the days that the dog's there, you can facilitate some preparation activities. So when Ellie, on the days that Ellie's not there, he still has to come and see you and he has to, do whatever to prepare for when she's there the next day or the day after. So I talk all the time about how I use dog treats as rewards, as my token economy, because the kids love giving the dogs treats. So I can get the kids to earn the treats. So you could do things like, he's got to come in and he's got to do X, Y, Z, and then he can, have a little jar in there for him. So he's earning the treats on Monday and they get put in the special jar. And then on Tuesday, he walks Ellie in and comes into your room and gives her the treats out of the jar. Yeah. That's how you would transition to, okay, she's not here, but she will be here. And we can, it doesn't matter that she's not physically here. We can still prepare for when she is here.
Yeah.
Otherwise you may get situations where kids won't come in on the day she's not there.
Well, it was interesting because I had long service leave. So we sort of just got her into the school and then I had long service leave. So I had to post a photo of her on her skateboard to say, you know, we're scooting out. And then we had to do some during her holiday. And luckily she'd done some agility shows and had come first and second. So we had the rosettes to put on and the picture of her, like, I've done so well.
Oh, bless.
So it kept people wanting to know. In fact, when I first came, one little girl met me at the gate on the first day and she said, I've been learning sign language so I can talk to your dog.
Oh my gosh.
And I had to sort of say, we use different sign language, sorry.
Oh, bless.
It was quite funny, but yeah, she'd been training herself up, waiting for this dog. And we also tied it into, the boss did this really well. So year 4 had to do a persuasive text. And their text was, could we have a dog at school? And they didn't know Ellie was coming.
Ellie was coming. Oh, my goodness.
And so the principal on the first day walked us through the year 4s and said, okay, I've listened to what you've said. We're getting a dog.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. I love that idea.
It was really good.
Love that idea. I was marking videos and the ones that I was doing this morning. And the person has got the kids, they're in a high school, they've got the kids filming the videos for like their assessment videos, they're doing them at school. I loved it. Like, and so the kids just filming it and the lady's just talking to the kids and stuff. But I was like, oh my God, that is such a great idea for anyone who's working in a school, because your reassessment's annoying because you've got to film all these flipping videos. It's a pain in the bum. Yeah. So I'm like that. I'd be so annoyed. Like, so I have to film my dogs all the time. It's a flipping nightmare. But you know, I was thinking, if you're in a school environment, that's the perfect time you could create like a little helpers group. Like, so all of the kids that, you could choose different groups of kids with different issues. So kids that get like, you know, anxiety about assessments, or kids that are difficult to engage, or, you know, kids with behavioral stuff that hate being told what to do. You know, like the kids that don't want to engage in learning because they're like, what's the point? Why do I have to learn this? Like, or you could have all these little different groups and have an exercise each that they need to help the dog pass their assessment, because they'd be so invested because it's the school's dog. So you're super invested in it, but you could have these little groups, or have one group to do all your, because I think there's like 8 or so activities that the dog's got to, like those videos. So you like your social walk and mat, drop, sit stuff. But you could have either like little, break it into groups, or just have one group, because the thing that we need is like the distractions. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you could be like, okay, so we need to come up with, you know, like, because I could hear the lady was saying to the student, like, I need to do just distance, distraction, duration. So, you know, but I was like, oh, this is such a cool way to talk kids through like a criteria sheet. Absolutely. How to look at a criteria sheet and understand a criteria sheet, and then plan an activity to meet the criteria sheet. Like, I got way worse marks in school than what I probably should have got, because I never understood criteria sheets. Like, I always did the wrong thing. I was like, damn it. So I like was listening and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so rich with ideas of like, okay, so now we're going to do distractions. Like, we're going to get distance. So, okay, guys, you got to act natural, but also, you know, I want you to like, you know, have a noisy conversation and walk past the dog on their mat. Or, you know, and then, but you could talk about why, like, why has the dog got to show us that it can do these things? And, you know, why is it important? Like, who cares if the dog sits, or who, you know, whatever, like, it's a great dog anyway. But talking about, well, the dog's got to learn. And, you know, our recall is important because it's a safety thing. And if we don't have recall, we shouldn't have the dog off lead. And, you know, you could just, there would just be so many learning opportunities in that. I was like, I'm definitely I wrote in her feedback. I was like, you've just given me so many ideas. Thank you. Thank you for that.
And now I can do the same thing. Excellent.
Yeah. Right. And you could get like, because like lots of people do it in schools and stuff. And I think the permissions work a bit differently. But, you know, if you had a little focus group, like, why not formulate an entire program around it. Like, because then
Yeah.
you're doing it at work. Like it would make the job of making the videos, like you'd look forward to it. You'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, we've got 2 months before we need to have our videos in. Like, let's put together a little program and have the kids do it with you. Like, we've got so many
Yeah, it's
learning
good.
outcomes, you know? We're always looking for
Excellent.
stuff to do with the dogs. Like, how do we,
Yeah.
you know, people constantly asking us, like, how do you whatever with the dogs?
And I think too, if you can do it in the work situation and show exactly what the dog's doing,
Yeah,
it's a
we
really
need
good
that.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We really need that. Like, it's so much easier when I can see, you know, like sometimes we have to make do because like my setting's tricky because we've got kids in therapy, you know,
Yeah.
like it makes it more difficult. But I think schools, you definitely should be having those reassessment videos at the school. And it's so lovely to see the dog's like cruising around and kids are running up and patting it and he's wagging
Yeah.
his tail and he's like, hey guys.
No, that's great.
Just makes our job easier because I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, great. Like this dog's sweet, you know, like there's unexpected things popping up and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, easy. This is easy. This is very
No,
easy.
that's good.
Thank you. I love when the videos are easy.
There was one the other day. I could hear two kids in the hall refusing to do an assessment.
Oh yeah.
And so I went out to them and I said, "Oh, listen, you know, you're sounding a little bit grumpy, and poor Ellie doesn't like that. She can feel that in the room."
Mm.
And then I said, "How about if you do the assessment in my room really quietly while Ellie has a snooze, then you can have a play with her after."
Yeah.
And they got the whole assessment done,
They
but they
just
were
do it.
refusing to do it. Yeah, they
Right.
just did it. And then because she was asleep, they went shh, and they tippy-toed out and didn't even stop for a pat. It was it was just the perfect setup.
There's so many times, Robyn, when I'm like, is this a joke? Is this a joke how easy this is? And like, I'll like try something like that and it'll just work. And I'm like, is this a joke? Like, is that actually did that just work? It's amazing how often you're just like, you know, give something like that a try. Like, you know, you never know like how they're going to react, like, you know, but it's just
even for the staff though, having the dog here, like into a staff meeting, you just see everyone light up. It's really good.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I'm tossing up tomorrow's our wellbeing night, so I'm not sure whether I'm going to bring her in tomorrow instead of Wednesday and have a go. Yeah,
that'd be nice. So we're in agreement. The dog's great. Dogs in schools is great. Therapy dogs are great. They're so useful. There's definitely ways that we can prepare the dogs, even if they're hearing impaired, to be out of school, be in a school environment. What about challenges and so risk assessment stuff? Like how do you think your risk assessment might have differed from someone whose dog's not hearing impaired?
So I was really lucky in that a couple of schools down here that have therapy dogs sent me their risk assessments so I could have a look at them.
Yep.
There's not too many changes. There are things like in other schools there are other people trained up to handle the dog, and I've said that like I'm the only one that will handle the dog here.
Yeah.
So things like that. It was really quite the same. I made very few changes. She has to have downtime, obviously. So if we've been in with a lot of kids, then I give her that downtime and I don't get her back out. I haven't had to factor too much else in that's different to a hearing dog.
Those were my main things were the stuff I've already said, like that, because I don't have a hearing impaired dog. But trying to think about, what about a recall in a situation or, like kids accidentally waking the dog up. So like if I have, the dogs have fallen asleep in the room, and a kid goes over towards them, I just talk to the dog to wake them up so that they're ready, so that they don't get a startle. So have you had issues with that stuff? Do you have a system?
I had a counsellor in here with a child the other day and she was snoozing on the floor. I would probably actually clap to wake her up as they're approaching. I know it's not ideal to have the noise, but if she's not, like at the moment, as you saw, she's right next to me when she sleeps.
Yeah.
But I would try and wake her before it happens. She's not one to startle.
Yeah.
She's really good.
Yeah.
And she's not one that she would snap or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I would probably clap and just get her attention. Often even just a thump on the floor, if I hit my foot on the floor, and no one would understand what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But she can feel it.
Yeah.
So it's really just small movements with her, and she's not a deep sleeper.
Yeah.
So she's always still trying to check in. When we go home, she really sleeps then, but not at work.
That's interesting, hey? You really just got to know your dog.
Yeah, and like her behaviour is so good. I don't have many issues. If it was one of my males, I probably would have major issues. But
so it's got to be the right dog. It's got to be the right dog, and you got to know your dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if someone else, go.
Yeah, and because I have to watch her body language so much, I can see when she's uncomfortable or when the situation's not right. So I just say to the kids, okay, we need to stop now. We've got to get to a meeting and take off. So it's just all in the way her body language goes. So she'll go sort of stiff, and she'll go look to the sides to get away from something. And that's where I have to tell the kids, you need to move away from the front of her.
Yeah, okay.
Or always give her room to escape if she needs to.
Yeah. Just thinking about how do the kids react to that? Like, do they have any, like, would they feel, do they get upset? Do they argue?
No, they don't. They've been pretty good. And I've actually heard the older ones saying, you're going to frighten her if you block her at the front. And they'll say to the little ones, you've got to move to give her room. So they're actually starting to use it themselves and say,
that's
don't block the front of her. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they know, come in and join a line at the side and have a pat, and off you go so another person can have a go.
Yeah.
So they are sharing, and they've been
cute.
pretty good with it. Yeah.
That's cool, hey? All those little skills that they're learning along the way, practicing along the way. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And the more they get used to it, the better they'll become.
Yeah.
So I can now sort of walk through the assembly without all the kids going, Ellie, it's just they know that they have to sit at assembly and we'll come and we'll walk through.
Yeah.
And even in classrooms now, instead of running at the door like they were in the beginning, they stay at their seat because they know she's going to come around to each and every one of them.
Yeah.
Unless they put their hands up, which means they don't want her near her.
Yep.
So it's pretty good.
That's awesome. So the thing I would be looking out for in my setting is just making sure that I'm working with, difficult to engage and anxious little humans that are often more invested in animals than what they are in humans. And so I want that relationship to be really positive. And quite a strong relationship before there's any sort of, I try to stay away from things like the dog doesn't like that, or you're scaring the dog, or things like that, in case the child internalizes it into, I'm doing something wrong or bad, and now the dog doesn't like me. Do you think that because Ellie's got a disability, is it easier, do you think, for kids to externalize those cues and things because there's a reason? Like, it's not because she doesn't like you, it's because she can't hear you and she's going to more easily get overwhelmed, or she may, or whatever.
It's been pretty good because when I go around to each of the classes, I explain that to them so that you can't block her sight, because that's her only way that she can talk to you is by looking at you. So if you block it with your hands or your body, she can't communicate with you.
Yeah.
And then she'll get frightened. And the kids understand that. They're really good with it.
Yeah, cool.
And even the little ones are starting to do it. We had some strange things in the beginning. So when I first took her around to our little preppies, my hand signals were totally wrong for the setup. So I did a wave for her to come with me, and she thought it was a wave to jump up on their table in front of them.
Oh my gosh, hilarious. Because you'd have all sorts of agility cues as well.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And so the tables were low in the prep room, so it was at her height that she could jump up really easy.
Hilarious.
And she jumped up on the table in front of the kids, and they all went, oh, and then I had to get it down really quickly. It was like, no. So I had to monitor my hand signals with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we haven't done that again. Although one of the teachers found it really funny and took photos of her on each of the tables.
Yeah, I think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm surprised the kids didn't just like squeal with delight at like.
I think it was just a shock to start with, and then they were like, come to my table, come to my table.
Yeah.
And I had to stop her jumping onto the tables. So,
yeah. And the kids I work with would immediately be trying to make her jump on the table over and over and over and over again.
I have a few kids that come in and do the hand signals. So like they'll stand next to me and try and get her to do what they want with the hand signals. So they're watching the hand signals really closely. So it's quite funny.
How does she go with that? Because we literally just spoke about this on the last podcast about how I let my dogs ignore like pretty much anything anyone else says, because the kids just overuse every single thing that they're using modeling. So they'll see me say something to the dogs and then they'll say it like 50 times. Right. Yeah.
So they'll do it and she actually ignores them.
Yeah.
And so when I want her to do it, I am standing behind them doing the signals.
Same signal.
They don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm actually doing it. But she's looking at me going, oh yeah, okay, get it. And when they're doing it, she's like, no.
Yeah. No. Who are you? I do that if I've got little kids that I'm using trick training to get the dogs, get them engaged.
Yeah.
And I'll like stand behind them because most of the tricks that we've got have got hand signals.
Yeah.
And so they'll be like, because everyone sounds different. And even if I teach them the hand signals or whatever, like their tiny little hands just don't do the job, like
it does it differently. They do it differently. It's a different movement.
Yeah. And the dog's like, excuse me, I've never seen that before in my life. I've never heard that word before in my life. Yeah. I don't know what any of that is. I'm so sorry. I can't comply. So sorry. So yeah, I'll like be behind them doing my little like spin hand movement.
That's what I do.
Stuff. Yeah.
And the kids think they're doing it. And
they think they're doing
it.
Yeah. And then what's good about that is that if the kid actually can get them to do it, that's one thing. But then they just overdo it. Like they just do it. And it doesn't matter how many times. Lots of kids are great and, they can understand. But I've got some kids that it won't matter how many times I say, like, I don't know how she feels about spinning around in 100 circles, or what do you think why she might not be doing that anymore? Or I use treats for tricks. And so I try and set the boundary early on, like, okay, so you've got 5 treats and that means you can do 5 tricks, like it's one treat per trick, but I'll say that. And then they'll be like, they'll do their 5 tricks. Oh, actually, do you know what happens a lot? They'll do that. And then they'll go out into the waiting room where the parent is and they want to show off to the parent what the tricks I can do. And so they start asking the dog to do the tricks and the dog's like, I'm so sorry, you have actually run out of treats. So there's actually zero chance I'm doing
no value in this.
Yeah, there's actually zero chance. And then I'm like in this situation where I'm like, damn it, like, because I've told the kid, like, okay, so you're done. Yeah. And then I've told the dog that's, all done. And then they go out in the waiting room and start it. And then it's like the kid's like upset or, embarrassed or feels awkward or like just yucky stuff because they were trying to show their parent how clever they were at getting the dog to do stuff. And then the dog's not doing it. And I'm like, damn it. Now I feel like I have to go, okay, well, let's just go get, 2 more treats or something. And you can do your 2 favorite tricks or whatever. Try and get the dogs to do it again because I don't want them to leave. Like they're leaving the whole session with that as their last, like, stupid dog. You made me look like a fool. Man.
And it's amazing how much the tricks actually get the kids in.
Oh, yeah. 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 It was my
But
it was my
even the
go-to
teachers.
thing. Yeah. Yeah. When I had new clients all the time, I have new clients these days, here and there, but it was my go-to thing. It was my absolute, every single first session, it was my go-to thing. And my kids that had selective mutism, it was my go-to thing, definitely all the time, because I would get them talking. And kids that didn't want to come in, they didn't want to come into the room at all. They didn't want to engage or anything. I'd do trick shows. So I'd tell them in the waiting room, like, did you know that Sunny can actually do like a lot of tricks? So if you want, I can show you how to do them and then teach you, and then we can make a little show, and then mum can come in and you can perform the trick show every time. That's one of those things I'd be like, I had this little script that I would use, and it would just be every time the kids are like, see you, mum. So
amazing.
good. Even that transition. So when the dogs come out, I have a kid that's being a real pain in the bum for their parent that day, and the parents just had enough. Like they've just been screaming in the car or whatever, and they're just like, had enough. And then they're in the waiting room and they're carrying on like pork chop. And then the dogs go out, and, you know, we've got Labradors and a Border Collie. So the Border Collie is obsessed with pats. He'll like go and sit and stare straight into your eyes, and you have to pat his head. And if you stop, he paws at you.
Oh,
if you
lovely.
Stop doing it. And so like he'll do that show, or the labs will run out and they right in your space, you know, that snuffling.
Yep.
And then they're all wriggly and, you know, cuddly. And it's amazing how like the kids can be sitting in the waiting room, and then the dog comes, and they're adamant. This kid's adamant. They hate their parents. They hate me. They don't care about the dogs. I'm not going in. I'm kicking the car the whole way home. Like, yous are all going down for bringing me here, and I'm not going back to school, and I'm not doing, you know, they're in that zone. The dogs come out. I always come out like, hi guys. Like, even if the parents like been texting through the thing, like we're running late because this kid's like burning the house down or like whatever. And I'm like, and I come out, I'm like, no. And like the dog just is, you know, forcing this child to like soften, because they come out and they're like, Oliver just stares straight into their eyes and makes them feel like they're the most important thing in the world. And the labs are like, you know, trying to give them toys and trying to climb up on their chairs and get in their space and all that sort of stuff. It is amazing how quickly, and like, it's really important that I go out with that, like, act like I don't know.
Absolutely,
or even if I can hear them, sometimes I can hear them in the waiting room and they're like firing up, and I'm like, here we go. This is going to be fun.
Well, that's what happened with me the other day, where I could hear the child refusing to do the assessment. It was like, and he was out there angry, and I was like, come on in.
If you go out there with any kind of like, right, you know, kind of stuff, they will fight back. If you give them an opportunity. I feel like sometimes those kids are looking for an exit strategy. Like they've already they've committed now, and they've caused a bit of a scene. And so if they give in now, they look, you know, like it's like when you know you're losing an argument and you're just like, I'm just going to stick with it.
I think one of the most challenging situations I've been in, we have a young boy in a wheelchair, and Ellie won't jump up on people. And so it's trying to train her to get up on the wheelchair so that he can have a pat, because he's got very limited movement. So
why don't you just drive him up next to a table and get her to jump? She loves jumping on tables. Get her up there. Make her a platform.
Yes. She might get too used to that.
You need a table.
Right, something at his height.
You need a mat, like a specific, you know, those non-slip mat things. You've probably used them. You glue them onto your like podium things for the dogs and stuff. Seen that? Well, you probably have fancy ones. I have like $2, you know, those like slip mat things that are in
even the bath mats, you know, that I use in the hydro bath.
Cut them up, and I used to cut them up and glue them to stuff so the dogs could like grip on it. Actually, I use marine carpet in my ute. I got a style side, and the tailgate comes down. You know, I screw, so it's got screws already in it in the tailgate thing, and you just undo those, and then you put your your marine carpet on. So when they jump in, they've got grip on that so they don't go flying through. If anyone's got issues with their dogs getting into the car. But that's really light.
Yeah.
It's super light. You could probably make something for her to get up on.
Yeah, I'll have to work it out.
I think that because Oliver loves to jump up and cuddle, but I think although your dogs would be so fit, any extended time that they're up like that, I think they fatigue.
You know, she's never been a jumper. Like she does in agility, obviously, but she's never jumped up on people. She's never gone into that. Even as a puppy, she never did it. So I think it's a respect thing that she doesn't, but when you want her to, it's like, come on up.
It's so hard to get a dog to jump if that's not their thing. Like all my dogs, so Oliver will stay up the longest. Sonny never jumped when he was a baby. He just never, ever jumped. And so it's very hard to get him to jump up. You can do like your paws up thing, but he's lasts like a second and then he's off again. And Nala's really similar too. I don't know what her story is, but she's not like that. But Oliver, if you jump, especially if you catch him on your forearm and then give him a big cuddle, he loves that. Like that's his favorite thing in the world. That's his biggest reinforcer in the whole world is if you say cuddle and he gets to jump up and have his feet up and then you lean over and rub his belly.
Yep.
Loves that. Loves it. But even that, like it's his favorite thing, but he's still, I think it must be an unnatural position or something because I think that it does fatigue them.
Yeah. So I think that's the only thing that I would probably try and retrain or reorganize myself to do. But otherwise it's going really well. I'm really pleased with it.
That's so exciting. Well done.
Thanks.
Well done.
We're actually going to have our school photos done this week.
Oh my!
She's a staff member.
Oh my God. So like all the dogs we've got that are in schools are staff members. It's so cute.
And the photography company that we go through, they said each team has their own therapy dog. So a local school nearby, they've got a Bernese Mountain Dog.
Yeah.
Really big dog. And so that's a mascot for one of their teams. So Ellie's going to be a mascot for a different team. Yeah.
The photographer's got teams.
Yeah. Yeah. So they have teams that go out to different schools. And so they have a mascot. They take the photo of the dog with the team and that's their mascot.
That's cute.
Yeah, we were supposed to have photos last week, but we had to cancel due to a power issue. And I'd spent the morning blow drying her hair.
Oh, I bet. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
So to finish up, Robyn, so you can get on with your busy school day, is there any piece of advice or something that you've learned since you've graduated and you've brought your dog into school? Is there something that you think we could let people know that, either surprised you or you weren't expecting, or is something that you did know, like you said before, like something you did know, like, it can be crazy in school environments, and then you get there and you're like, oh yes, it actually really was.
Yeah.
Something that we can pass on to our current students.
I actually think that point was the biggest one for me. Was it is tiring. It's unexpected. That it's tiring for the dog getting so many pats at once.
Yeah.
You really have to set yourself up to go into a school so that you go round to the classes and say, go to an assembly and say, this is what's going to happen. This is what we would like it to look like. Put it out into social media so that the parents are aware as well. And the other thing was getting insurance. It took a long time to get insurance. So waiting for them to come back with quotes and things, and getting an insurance to suit this setting. It just took a bit of time. So
did your school organise that, or did you have to organise it?
I had
to. You organised it, yeah. It can go either way.
Yeah. So it was just, be prepared. It does take a little bit of time to implement it.
Yeah.
I actually did a staff meeting first, so a pupil free day with the dog, so that the staff got to meet her first.
Yeah.
So little steps.
Yeah. So be patient.
Yep. And things like I know there are things that you said, but you don't expect it. Not being able to go to the shops on the way home because the dog's in the car.
I know, right?
I'm
Pain of
really
my
lucky.
existence.
Well, there's a local shopping centre here and they don't mind the dogs going in there, and it's like,
Yes.
yes.
That's a massive win. Massive
That's
win.
really good. Yeah, so things like that.
With the 5-day course, do you think that it's people, like, is it an information overload? Like, is it, or do people, so like if I'm saying like it's school environments are really busy, like, your dog's going to get tired and stuff like that. Is it just one of those things that people just have to experience? And is it, we just got to prepare them so that, because I worry that people are going to go out into these environments. Two things I worry about. I think they're going to go out into these environments and not be ready. The other thing I worry about is that they go out into the environments and they are ready, but they get a shock and then they think they're not ready,
I suppose one thing that you could add is maybe like an introduction program, like actually have, this is how you would plan to implement it.
That's a good idea.
So you could actually step it out for them. So in the first week you do this, it could be the social media side of it, or just go to a staff meeting or a pupil free day to begin with, so that you show them how to introduce it.
That's a good idea.
Not be like me who thought, yeah, not a hassle.
She'll be sweet.
And it was. Yeah, it's like, yeah.
That's a great idea, because that can be something that people are actively working on. Like, so, they submit their videos and we have to have 4 weeks grace to mark those, because some weeks we'll get 10 videos submitted and some weeks we get 1. So during that time, while they're impatiently waiting, maybe that's the kind of thing they could be working on. Like, they're expecting to pass. So, they could be writing those posts for social media and getting those photos ready, or, things like that, and starting to really just prepare in the background.
Yep. And if you give them some ideas on what to do and when, that sort of thing, just step it out.
That's a good idea.
Otherwise, you're just sort of, jumping in.
Yeah.
It becomes overwhelming for the dog. And I can honestly say that first day at school, Elle just, show me the car, I'm going. And I'm not coming back.
See ya.
Whereas now she like, is it my day? And she knows, because I get the car out and I drop the windows and then I put everything in the car ready, and then I feed the other dogs, and she knows it's my day and she comes running to the car. It's like, yes, it's my go. So she's really excited now to be coming, but the first couple of weeks it was, and I actually stopped and thought, am I doing the right thing for the dog here? And it wasn't until she sort of got used to a routine, it was like, oh yeah, I know, it's okay. And it helped that the girls in the office introduced tennis balls.
That's a really good tip there. Like, even just that in itself, just being ready for, even though we've got the dog ready and the handlers ready, I just don't think there's any real way to be prepared to have to do your job and manage a dog at the same time. I just don't think there's any way. There's no amount of training that can have you ready for that. And I think it's something that you've got to be kind to yourself and your dog and ease into, and give yourself a lot of self-care, and get support from your workplaces and stuff, to have even things like reduced duties, or, help with tasks and stuff, so that you can have that time to ease into it.
That's it.
Yeah.
It is. And I've just been so lucky here that everyone has just been so willing, and everyone's like, come to my class. And it's like, I can only do so many classes in a day.
Yeah.
And I still haven't got around to the whole school. So there are some classes that are more needy. And we've now even put her on our referral forms. So we have a wellbeing team. So we have a chaplain, a social worker, a guidance officer, and the dog.
I love that idea.
So when we wouldn't know about children perhaps before, we now have meetings and we say, okay, so this is one for the therapy dog, and this is for the chaplain, or we work on it so that all of the kids are covered.
That's so cool. Love it. Okay, Robyn, that is fantastic. So we'll maybe put in the show notes a way that people can contact. Do you have an Instagram for your
No.
dogs?
No.
Well, we've got some time. We'll have at least a week or so before we publish this podcast. So if you want to come up with your best contact details for anyone.
What about my personal email address?
Yeah, so I'll put that in the show notes, and then
Yep.
anyone who's got, you know, a hearing impaired dog or needs to get your insight on training a dog with a disability, they can get in touch.
Absolutely. Yep.
We
I
were just
I just got to see. Look, that's how much she's moved.
Hello, little girl. She's just dead asleep. What did she react to then?
My stamping on my foot.
I thought I heard that.
Yeah, I stamped my foot.
And then she's straight up.
Yep. That's what I mean. She's pretty
so
quick.
Smart.
She's really quick with any of that sort of thing.
What a legend.
Yep.
We were just so impressed with Robyn. It was a real pleasure to watch your training videos. It was really, really cool to see. And I hope that you know, sharing those with people as well as I'm sure you've got plenty of training videos and people see you training all the time, but it was just really, really cool. And thanks for chatting to us.
It was actually good because I was able to help someone else get through the therapy course. So
yay.
You just passed her. Thank you.
Woo! Well, for someone that I passed in the last couple of days, there was a couple that I did and they were all fantastic. They were fantastic.
You got a really good score. So I was
great.
pleased because it was lots of hours of videoing. So.
Yeah, well, you know, we don't give those scores away lightly. So, you know, that's why I've got a scoring system the way that we do. And it's the time you put in and the dog. Some people, you know, it doesn't matter how much time you put in. If you've got a dog that's like a dash hound or whatever, that's not interested, it's not their forte, is, you know, reacting quickly to things, that's fine. Like, it doesn't matter. But yeah, some teams that are really, really very impressive. And you're definitely one of them. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for being so flexible, working with us through the course and stuff as well. Cause I always get a bit nervous, like, you know, like I'm going to be flexible, but we need to work together and we need to be able to, like make our worlds align so that I can be confident in you and you can also get something from us along the way. So it was just a pleasure.
Excellent. No, it was a great course. So thank you so much for it. And more to come.
We'll be seeing you soon, I'm sure.
No worries. Thanks so much.
No worries. Bye, Robyn.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you're interested in studying with Therapy Dogs Australia or you have a few more questions before deciding, please get in touch with us by emailing courses@therapydog.com.au or visiting our website at www.therapydog.com.au for more information and FAQs.